Dinwiddie. We're now joined by J.D. Pickell, Sic'Em365.com, college football analyst who played the game at the collegiate level as well, joins us on Sic'Em 365 Radio. J.D., when you heard the report that we had on Sic'Em365.com about the decision of Blake Shapen instead of Gary Bohannon, what was your reaction and any surprise at all?
I was very surprised, mostly because you got a guy in Gary Bohannon who really hadn't done anything wrong besides pull his hamstring against Kansas State. I mean, 12-2 as a starter. There's the old saying, dance with the one that brung you. And Gary Bohannon had brought Baylor back from a 2-7 season the year before. So from that standpoint, I was definitely surprised. But from watching the spring game, I mean, it really feels evident that this offense is going to have a much higher ceiling under Blake Shapen. And credit to Dave Aranda for doing right by Gary Bohannon and allowing him to have another year of eligibility to play.
JD, when you look at Shapen's ceiling and what they can do with the offense, what do you think is the biggest deciding factor in Jeff Grimes and Sean Bell and ultimately Dave Aranda deciding to go that route?
For me, it's just what he can do down the field, because when you got to third down a season ago, you didn't necessarily have a feeling of anxiety when it's third and obvious passing situations, but when you have Blake Shapen playing quarterback, I think there's probably a touch more optimism. And that's not a knock on Gary Bohannon. I tweeted this out a while ago. Different guys bring different things to the table. Like, you're not going to see a whole lot of quarterback power on third and goal with Blake Shapen because that's not his game. And so I think the way they're able to be more multiple and the way they're going to be able to attack vertically a little bit more this season, I think that really is what ultimately was the deciding factor. For Baylor fans, they should be encouraged in a lot of sense that this was decided in spring camp. I mean, if it was close or if there was a really heated battle going on and they thought it was going to be something that needed to go into fall camp, I really have a lot of confidence that Dave Aranda and Sean Bell would have done that because that would have been best for the team. But the fact that Shapen came in, won the thing in 15 practices, I mean, that says a lot to me about what was probably going on behind closed doors at Baylor.
JD, what does this tell you possibly about how they feel about the run game going with Shapen?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the immediate knee-jerk reaction for me is, okay, you don't have an Avery Smith, you don't have a Treston Ebner, so you probably are going to have to be a little bit more multiple. The honest answer is I don't know. The honest answer is I'm not 100% sure, but I think just the fact that you're having to replace two all-conference kind of players in your running back room, it doesn't hurt to be able to throw the ball a little bit better. And Baylor ran the ball, I think, 60% of the time a season ago, which was top 20 in the country. So I really think they want to be able to throw the ball more, and Shapen's the guy to get that done.
JD, you've been in locker rooms, and you saw what the decision. We're talking about a guy that was incredibly popular. You hear about the leadership, hear about he was in all the different film rooms. You hear about the fact he was always the first one there, his work habits and all that. And then again, it does come down to who can produce and do what you need to do. And it doesn't mean that always means you get to keep your job or even get the job. What about the locker room with Blake Shapen now the rest of the spring? School's about to be out, and how he can make sure, and we don't know about what he's thought of in the locker room, but respected, how that will help him between now and August.
I think there's a lot of, I think you hit it on the head. The fact that there's between now and August for him to be the guy, like there is no more, discussion about who's going to be QB1 or is this Gary's team, is this Blake Shapen's team. The fact that Gary Bohannon has now transferred out of the program, I think gives Blake Shapen a lot of room to breathe and to kind of assume that role of, okay, this is my team. I'm not an upperclassman. I'm not a senior, but this is still my team and I have to act that way. So the fact that there is a little more, I hate to use the word oxygen, but a little more space for a leader to step up, I think that's going to ultimately empower Blake Shapen. Whereas if Gary Bohannon had stayed, maybe he's looking over his shoulder, maybe he doesn't feel comfortable to step up and be that guy. And again, this is me speaking with no real insight on Blake Shapen as a person, but being that quarterback, I think being the guy right now going forward is an enormous benefit for him and for that locker room.
This is going to change the run game a little bit in that I would not expect as many called runs for Blake Shapen as there were for Gary Bohannon. So how does that affect the running backs? How does that affect what you will see on offense from Baylor?
I think the place that we're going to see that rear its ugly head the most is on, those third and short, right? Or third and goal, like we were talking about. When you're able to have 3rd and 3 and call quarterback power, that's huge because now you have 10 guys blocking as opposed to the 9 you had when you're calling it for your running back. So the fact that you're going to see less quarterback power, I think, is one thing fans can expect. I do think we'll see still some zone read with Blake Shapen. He's a guy who is athletic. He does have some wiggle. He can run when he needs to. That's going to be, I think, the biggest difference fans see is less called quarterback runs, especially in the red zone to, third and fourth and short.
JD, this is obviously a very young group of wide receivers, but even still, with injuries as well plaguing them throughout the spring, got to see some flashes from those young guys. You got the quarterback change, you've got an overhaul of the running back room, and now you've got a completely inexperienced, for the most part, wide receiver group. How can the wide receivers help out Blake Shapen and vice versa and get on the same page heading into the next fall?
I mean, I guess the obvious answer is, guys, get open, right? Like, hey, let's create some spaces for our man to throw the football to us. But I think for me, that the place that I look, and this is maybe a little bit off topic, but the place that I'm looking is the running back room, because last season, Gary Bohannon, when he was successful throwing the football, which was fairly frequently, was because those safeties and those linebackers were keen and getting downhill really quick on how successful Baylor was running the football. So I think Baylor's got a lot of talent in that receiver room. We saw Monterey Baldwin do his thing. I'm really excited about Kelsey Johnson, the way he's going to come along with Greg Dabney, and obviously Ben Sims being the known commodity in that room. So there's a lot of reason for excitement based on the talent level, but I think ultimately it's going to come with, hey, can we get this secondary, this second group of the defense keyed up to try and play the run to where we can set up the pass, which Baylor obviously did extremely effectively a season ago.
Do you feel good about what they have in that room, or are you like some others like myself who have talked about maybe the need for a more veteran wide receiver out of the portal, if there's anybody even that is available that would fit that bill, or do you think that they are fine with what they have?
Yeah, I think if you could go in the portal and get an upgrade, I think you do it. Gavin Holmes is a guy that I'm really excited about. If he can stay healthy, he's got a lot of ability. I think there's going to be guys that step up. But in terms of, what they have in that room, it is, to your point, a really big question mark. So if it's a matter of testing the waters in the portal and not, I think if you can get a guy that fits the culture, if you can get a guy that's not going to be tough for your locker room or someone who's going to have an issue buying in, then you absolutely go in and get someone with that much talent. And we saw them do it a season ago with, golly, they were like first team all portal last year in terms of guys, getting them post spring, which is Gall among others. So, if you can get a fit, absolutely. But the thing I worry about with the portal is if you're going to reach, if you're going to try and get somebody who's sort of a round peg in a square hole, that makes me a little nervous. That is usually, I think, a little more trouble than it's worth. So if you have to stay with the guys in your room, you're not in a bad spot. But again, if you can upgrade and they're going to be a fit for your locker room and culture, 100%, I think that's what you got to do.
JD, your thoughts about what this means involving Kyron Drones and even what is now quarterback 3 in Rogers, C.J. Rogers, and what does this say maybe about what the staff thinks of Kyron and then possibly C.J.?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, with Kyron Drones obviously being so highly touted out of high school, the big thing for him is now he's going to get a lot more attention with being developed and staying ready, in season. That's not to say he wasn't getting developed previously, but now he's going to have a little bit more attention on him as it's going through game prep and week to week. Like, hey, Kyron, you're a play away every single week, every single game. So that's going to be a big deal. And I think you're going to see a guy like Kyron Drones honestly answer the call to that. I mean, from a football family, a guy who has stuck it out at Baylor thus far and seems to be bought into what they're doing. I'm excited for his maturation. Now, obviously, I hope that we don't have to see him play too much. But I mean, if he has a package or two to run those quarterback powers or kind of serve as what we saw Gary Bohannon do in the 2019 and 2020 season, I think that could be a great way for him to get in there with how athletic he is. So excited for him to continue to develop. And then, anytime you have a guy like Gary Bohannon leave your meeting room, there's sort of two different ways it can go. One is it can kind of take fear out of the room and it can kind of feel like, okay, the alpha's gone. We gotta sort of all step up and find a way to get better, or it can kind of create anarchy. And so my gut reaction with Sean Bell's meeting room and with just this team as a whole, I think you're going to see a guy like C.J. Rogers kind of step up and similar to Kyron Jones, feel like, okay, the possibility is that much more likely that I can be in the game here. I'm one more player closer. So, again, that's sort of pontificating a little bit on what this whole situation could amount to, but I'm excited for the quarterback room. There's a lot of quality players in there.
They have the commitment from the kid at Dripping Springs. And, again, Kyron's a blue chip type quarterback, and C.J., does it say anything at all? C.J.'s a walk-on. They haven't given him a scholarship, but does it say that there's a possibility he could earn one perhaps this fall?
I think that's a great question. The right answer there, David, is I don't know. I really don't know. I think if he keeps throwing dots like he did in the spring game, it'd definitely be hard to not put him on scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of that, too, depends on what they do in the portal, right? And if they do end up going and upgrading at a couple positions or getting guys that they'd like to get in different position groups, I think that probably weighs more into the matter than his play right now. But, I mean, if he goes in and has a phenomenal camp and ends up winning that number 2 job somehow or whatever it may be, I don't see a reason why you keep him off scholarship. And I mean, for walk-ons, I think the thing is, the longer you stay around and the more that you continue to prove, hey, you're bought in, you're adding value, you're doing what's asked of you, it seems like in my short experience being around that kind of thing, that usually gets rewarded.
Thank you, man. You're doing a great job. JD does a segment with you, Paul.
Yeah, we do the big one, too, in the fall. And then actually this week we're going to do a collab on the Cowboys channel and CFB with JD, where he's going to break down some of the Cowboys draft picks for us.
I just like the fact that you've got that Colgate helmet here now inside the studio.
Yeah, it's right there.
Colgate.
Yeah. Different shade of red, but it's actually the Cornell Big Red. But I'm glad to add it to the studio, and maybe we'll get a Colgate helmet in there.
No, I'm kidding you. It's a good toothpaste. All right, thanks a lot, JD. Appreciate your time. JD Pickell, Sic'Em 365 football analyst, and has really done a great job. And I loved at the end when I asked him about the fact I don't know, and he's not trying to just force. He's really done a great job. Very natural what he does. It's great to have JD as a part of our staff. Sic'Em365.com.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to kind of wait and see on the whole scholarship to Rogers thing. I mean, right now you got Novosad coming in next year, and you've got 2 guys. I mean, they are going to be playing with fire a little bit, though, in terms of just having 2 scholarship quarterbacks on campus right now. But if Rogers is the real deal, like a lot of people seem to think that he is, and there were some good things on Saturday, then, maybe he does earn that. But I also know there's a lot of other guys in the team who are probably deserving of scholarships as well.
Sure.
So you've only got so many to hand out. And I think that will play into, where is he in the pecking order and where is he in their future plans? And if he's a very strong part of their future plans, then, yeah, he'll probably end up earning a scholarship. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of see how they continue to play that quarterback room. I still don't think that they go grab another guy. I don't see what sense that would make, because the only purpose for it would be depth, and not even depth, like third string depth. So I don't know, to take up another scholarship, like why not just give it to C.J. Rogers? You know what I mean? So that'll be interesting to see what exactly they do in the portal. I don't think it'd be anything to do with the quarterbacks, but I do still think that there are some holes that they could fill elsewhere. And, it's just kind of slim pickings right now. A lot of the biggest names have already come and gone. And then, tomorrow Sean Mathis will make his decision. That's another one off the board. I mean, now Gary Bohannon's like a top 5 transfer portal guy because of who's left. So, yeah, it's very interesting this offseason already, and will continue to be, I'm sure.
Steven Shook, who is our great friend and listener, viewer in